Hi, my name is Mia Hermanson, and for my book talk, I'd like to talk about the book One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Casey. And I actually don't have a physical copy of the book with me, so I'll just insert a photo of the cover right now. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was actually recommended to me by one of my friends who knows I enjoy reading fictional novels, and it's actually a book from the perspective of a Native American man named Mr. Bromden who lives in a mental hospital. He's a patient in one, and he spends his days cleaning windows and sweeping floors, and he also pretends that he's deaf and mute. And he doesn't just do this to avoid conversations with the other patients and with the staff. He also does it so that he can more freely observe the people around him in his environment. And because of this, he does observe a lot of the characters. He observes a lot of the other patients, like Harding and Scanlon, and he also notes some of the orderlies, and he also notices especially the head nurse, which he calls the big nurse. And the big nurse is basically the dictator of the hospital. She's very strict, and she makes all of the rules, and she expects them to be followed, because if they aren't, she will either send you to shock therapy, or in a very bad circumstance, she will send you to get a lobotomy. So most of the patients are terrified of her and would never step a foot out of line in front of her. That is one day until things start changing when a new patient comes in named Randall McMurphy. And Randall McMurphy is a very loud, boisterous, gambling man with tattoos and scars that tells very loud and rude jokes, and he loves bending the rules. And so not only does he flip the world of the big nurse kind of on its head, he also flips the worlds of the rest of the patients upside down as well. In terms of reading, this book starts off a little bit slowly in the beginning, however it does pick up pace later on, about the halfway mark, and when I finally got into it, I found that I really enjoyed the description in this novel. Ken Casey does a great job of not directly saying what he means. He lets the reader find the meaning in his description, and he does this especially well with his characters as well, which reminds me a lot of F. Scott Fitzgerald and how he writes his characters in The Great Gatsby. And so the portion of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest that I'd like to read to you today is a section where Mr. Bromden is describing Randall McMurphy in this way. I was seeing him different than when he first came in. I was seeing more to him than just big hands and red sideburns and a broken-nosed grin. I had seen him do things that didn't fit with his face or hands, things like painting a picture at OT with real paints on a blank paper, with no lines or numbers anywhere on it to tell him where to paint, or like writing letters to somebody in a beautiful flowing hand. How could a man who looked like him paint pictures or write letters to people, or be upset and worried like I saw him once when he got a letter back? These were the kind of things you expected from Billy Bibbit or Harding. Harding had hands that looked like they should have done paintings, though they never did. Harding trapped his hands and forced them to work sawing planks for doghouses. McMurphy wasn't like that. He hadn't let what he looked like run his life one way or the other, any more than he'd let the combine mill him into fitting where they wanted him to fit. So that's just one section out of many of this book that I really, really enjoyed reading, because Ken Casey does often use really in-depth character description, which is why I'm giving this a book 4 stars out of 5. I'm not giving it a full 5 stars out of 5 because it does take a while to get into, and there are some parts where the language or phrasing used is a little bit confusing. So I would recommend this book to someone that enjoys fiction, enjoys a lot of figurative language, and is okay with taking some time to do some research if they stumble across a challenging word or phrase.